There is a saying in Zen, the loudest sound in the world is silence. It is a paradox, but it holds a deep truth. Silence is not empty, it is full of meaning. When words are absent, emotions fill the void. When communication ceases, the mind races to fill the gaps with assumptions, regrets, and fears. Silence can be a weapon sharper than a sword, a force that speaks louder than anger, and a lesson more painful than any spoken insult. Many believe that silence is a sign of wisdom, and in some cases it is. A wise person knows when to remain quiet to avoid unnecessary conflicts. However, silence is also a response, and when used as a tool of avoidance, punishment, or revenge, it can deeply wound others in ways we might not expect. Imagine a person seeking forgiveness, longing for closure, or desperate for reassurance. Silence in these moments can be more painful than rejection. It creates a hollow space where hope, doubt, and pain battle endlessly. A Zen master once said, "A word spoken in anger can be forgiven, but silence in a moment of need echoes forever." This is a story about the silent wounds we leave on others without realizing it, about the pain we inflict not by what we say, but by what we choose not to say. The silence that grew like a shadow. A young man and an old master sat together under the shade of an ancient tree. The young man had a troubled look, his eyes clouded with unspoken thoughts. The master, sensing his turmoil, said nothing at first. After a long silence, the young man sighed and said, "Master, I have cut someone out of my life. They hurt me deeply, and I decided they no longer deserve my words, my attention, or my presence. I have given them my silence, and I feel at peace." The master looked at him for a long moment before asking, "Do you truly feel at peace?" The young man hesitated. "Yes, at least I think so. But they deserve this silence. It is my way of protecting myself." The master nodded slowly and pointed at a tree nearby. That tree once had two birds that shared a nest. They were always together, always chirping, always in harmony. One day one of the birds stopped chirping. It was not because it had nothing to say, but because it wanted the other to feel its absence. The young man listened carefully. "The other bird," the master continued, "at first thought the silence was a joke. Then it waited, hoping to hear a single chirp again. But the silence continued. Day after day, the quiet grew heavier. Eventually, the bird left the nest, its heart heavy with sadness, never to return. The young man frowned. "But master, the bird who remained silent won. It got what it wanted." The master shook his head. "No, it did not win. It lost. It lost the companionship, the connection, and the warmth of the other. In trying to punish, it only created emptiness for itself." The young man fell silent. The master smiled and said, "Let me tell you a story, the silent punishment. There was once a traveler who lived in the mountains. He was known for his kindness and wisdom. People often came to him for guidance, and he welcomed them with open arms. But one day, a close friend betrayed him, spreading lies and harming his reputation. The traveler was deeply hurt. He decided that instead of seeking revenge, instead of confronting the friend, he would give the ultimate punishment, his silence. He ignored the friend's presence, refused to acknowledge his words, and treated him as if he did not exist. At first, the friend laughed at this reaction. He thought it was childish. But as time passed, the weight of silence became unbearable. He tried to apologize, but there was no response. He tried to explain, but the traveler acted as though he was invisible. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The friend, once confident and proud, began to wither. He felt like a ghost, unseen and unheard. He carried the burden of regret, but no matter how much he wanted to fix things, the silence remained. One day, he could take it no longer. He went to the traveler's home, fell to his knees, and pleaded, "Say anything, even if you insult me, even if you hate me. At least let me know I still exist in your eyes." The traveler, unmoved, simply turned away. That night the friend left the village and was never seen again. The traveler thought he had won. he had given the ultimate punishment. But as time passed, he realized that his silence had not only hurt the other, it had left a hollow space inside him as well. The person who had once been his friend, despite his mistakes, was now gone forever. The silence, meant as a weapon, had cut both ways. The invisible wounds of silence. After hearing the story, the young man lowered his head. "But, Master, if words cause harm and silence causes harm, then what should one do?" The Master smiled. "It is not about speaking or staying silent, it is about intention. If you use silence to protect your peace, it is wisdom. If you use silence to hurt another, it is cruelty." The young man reflected on this. "But what if someone truly deserves my silence? What if they hurt me beyond forgiveness?" The Master picked up a cup of water and slowly poured it into the earth. Water nurtures the soil, but if you pour too much, it drowns the roots. Just as words can heal, too many words can cause unnecessary conflict. But if you pour nothing at all, the soil becomes dry and nothing grows. "So, what should I do?" the young man asked. The Master responded, "Ask yourself, are you silent because you need peace or because you want them to suffer? If it is for peace, then let go completely. But if it is for punishment, then you are not free, and neither are they." The young man sat quietly, feeling the weight of his actions. He had thought silence was his victory, but now he saw it was merely another form of attachment. Breaking the silence with understanding. The young man returned home that day and thought deeply about those he had cut off. He realized that his silence had been a way to exert control, to make others feel his pain without words. But in doing so, he had also burdened himself with resentment. That night, he picked up a small piece of paper and wrote a simple message: "I do not hold anger anymore. May you be at peace." He sent it without expecting a response. The next morning, he felt something he had not in a long time: lightness. The weight of silence, of unspoken grudges, had lifted. A Zen master once said, "Silence can be a prison or a sanctuary. Choose wisely." If your silence is keeping you trapped in bitterness, it is not peace. It is a wound that festers. But if your silence is a way to release negativity, then it becomes a path to true freedom. So the question is, why are you silent? And is your silence hurting you more than you realize? A deeper understanding. Silence is often misunderstood. Some believe it is a tool of wisdom, while others use it as a weapon of control. But the truth lies in the intention behind it. There are moments when silence is necessary. In meditation, it brings clarity. In conflict, it prevents unnecessary words that might harm others. In self-reflection, it allows us to listen to the voice within. But when silence is used to manipulate, punish, or create suffering, it becomes a silent poison, one that wounds both the giver and the receiver. The young man in the story realized that his silence was not an act of peace, but an attempt to make another person feel what he felt: hurt, regret, and longing. But in doing so, he only trapped himself in the same emotions. The echo of unspoken words. A wise saying in Zen states, "The silence between two people is not empty. It is filled with what they choose not to say." Many people underestimate the power of closure. A single word, a small explanation, or an honest goodbye can prevent someone from carrying pain for years. Yet pride often prevents us from giving others the clarity they need. When someone is left in silence, their mind creates stories of self-doubt, guilt, or resentment. They begin to wonder, did I mean so little to them? Do they truly hate me? Was I never important to them? This is why silence often hurts more than words. When a person is ignored, they feel as if they do not exist. The wound of rejection through silence lingers far longer than an argument or an insult. So ask yourself, is your silence meant to bring peace, or is it an attempt to control? Because if you are using it as a punishment, you are also keeping yourself trapped in the cycle of suffering. When silence is wisdom, and when it is cruelty, There are two types of silence. One is a path to wisdom, and the other is a path to suffering. The silence of wisdom. When you choose silence to avoid unnecessary conflict. When you remain silent to listen and understand others deeply. When silence helps you find inner peace and clarity. The silence of cruelty. When silence is used to make someone feel abandoned. When silence is a way to avoid responsibility. When silence is used to punish instead of to heal. The young man in the story realized that his silence was a form of silent punishment. Instead of bringing peace, it kept him emotionally tied to the very person he was trying to distance himself from. This is why the Master's words were so profound. If you are silent because you need peace, then let go completely. But if you are silent because you want them to suffer, then you are still chained to them. If silence is truly for peace, then it should come with complete emotional detachment. But if silence still carries bitterness, it is not peace. It is an invisible war. The illusion of control. Through silence. Many people use silence as a way to gain power over others. They believe that by withholding words, they can make others feel guilty, regretful, or desperate. But this is an illusion. True power does not come from making someone feel abandoned. True power comes from releasing them with understanding and peace. As a Zen teaching states, a person who seeks control over another is the most controlled of all. This means that when you use silence to make someone suffer, you are also bound to their suffering. You think you are in control, but in reality, you are emotionally attached to their pain. The young man in the story believed he had won by cutting someone off, but in truth, he was still carrying the weight of resentment. Only when he sent the small message, "I do not hold anger anymore, may you be at peace," did he truly feel free. Letting go does not mean going back. It does not mean allowing harmful people into your life. It simply means that you no longer carry them in your heart with anger. The alternative to silence. Compassionate closure. Not every situation requires silence. Sometimes a simple explanation, a single sentence, or a small act of understanding can prevent years of pain. Consider these situations. A person wrongs you, and instead of silent punishment you say, "I need distance for my peace, but I forgive you." A relationship ends, and instead of vanishing you say, "Thank you for the good times. I wish you peace." A friend betrays you, and instead of ignoring them you say, "I cannot continue this friendship, but I hold no anger." These words are not signs of weakness. They are signs of strength. They show that you have chosen peace without leaving someone in a void of unanswered questions. Silence can be powerful, but words can also heal. The key is knowing which to use and when. True freedom lies in letting go, not in holding back. The young man in the story discovered that real peace did not come from cutting someone off with silence, but from removing resentment from his heart. He did not need to reconnect or allow the person back into his life, but he needed to release the emotional weight. A Zen master once said, "If you release a bird with open hands, it may return. If you hold it with a closed fist, you will only feel its struggle." Holding on to anger through silence is like keeping a fist closed. It does not allow for true release. But when you open your hand, when you let go of the need to punish, you set yourself free as well. So reflect on your own life. Are you holding on to silence because it truly brings you peace, or are you using it to create suffering for someone else? Is your silence making you feel lighter, or is it keeping you tied to resentment? If your silence still carries emotional weight, then it is not peace. It is an unfinished battle. Choose peace over control. In the end, silence should be a path to wisdom, not a weapon of punishment. If you must be silent with clarity. But if your silence is hurting both you and the other person, then consider the alternative, peaceful closure. Silence is not always golden. Sometimes a single compassionate word can heal wounds that silence only deepens. So ask yourself, is my silence healing or is it harming? Because the answer will reveal whether you are truly free or still carrying invisible chains. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Just click the subscribe button below and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Also, feel free to leave a comment and let me know what you'd like to see next. See you in the next video.